Yo, what's up everybody? This is Steve for Visual Source FX, and welcome to another wonderful tutorial. Today we're going to talk about file conversions. That's going to be the main topic of today's tutorial, but I'll also get into explaining the different file types that can be imported into Corel. I'll also show you a good source that I use for getting a lot of my vector designs to work with for customers and such. So let's get started. The main issue with today is that a lot of people use Illustrator, and screen printers don't really like using Illustrator, I guess. Majority of them because we prefer Corel, because Corel is used mostly for color separating. Now, the issue is a lot of designers design in Illustrator and they send you an Illustrator file. So I'm going to show you how you can get an Illustrator file into Corel. Now, it doesn't work for all files because Illustrator has a lot of gradient effects and a lot of effects that won't transfer over, but for the majority of stuff it will work. One of the tools that won't transfer over will be the gradient mesh. That's one of the ones I've noticed that has a lot of problems transferring over. But other than that, you can pretty much get a good chunk of them in there. So let's get started. We'll get started by switching over to Illustrator. And if you'll notice, I have a design in here. It's an Illustrator file. And what you want to do is go ahead and start by saving it as an EPS, and that stands for Encapsulated PostScript. And that is the file type that's pretty much used across the board. It keeps your vector information, and almost any vector program will open that. So just come over here to the File menu, go to Save As. You'll want to save it as an Illustrator EPS file. Hit Save. And the main trick here is, once my computer stops doing that, oh, sorry, you have to hit save twice. I already have it saved, so I'm going to replace it. Yes. Okay, now in this dialog box, you'll notice that you have a drop-down menu for the version. If you save it as an Illustrator 8 file, you can also do Illustrator 9 if you got a lot more gradients, but Illustrator 8 is what I prefer. Save it as that, and hit OK. Now, if you switch back over to Corel, I don't know why my toolbar won't come up, but I'm not going to worry about that. If you switch back over to Corel and import, I already have this file imported because it does take a while to import the file sometimes, depending on the amount of stuff that's in that file or the image. So you import it, and what you want to do is when you import something, I'm not going to actually import this one, but if you import the EPS file, you'll want to make sure you import everything as curves. If you import as text, it sometimes turns it into a bitmap, so don't import as text. Make sure you import as curves. Alright, so now that you have your file inside of Corel, depending on the actual file itself, depending on how they saved it in Illustrator, sometimes the gradients may come over as bitmaps. So normally when you're getting a file from Illustrator, you're not going for the bitmap pieces anyway, or you're not going for the gradient pieces anyway. You want the solid, black lines. That's what I'm chasing. So pretty much you'll come over here and just break it up, and you have your file. Okay, so that is how you get an Illustrator file in there. Let me just kind of go over some of the file types. You can go ahead and, for people that want to export a lot of their stuff, I'll show you how to export EPS, JPEGs, bitmaps. Yeah, start there. Okay, so let's just say that this is the file we want to export right here. So we want to export this as an EPS file, right? So you can go to File, Export, or Control E. I use a lot of hotkeys. And sometimes this options box won't be open, so you can just open that up. And you may not want to export all the pages. You can export this page only. Let's see, if you want to get all the pages, you can just uncheck that. But we'll just export this page only. And as you can see, I've already exported this one, but I'll go and do it again. And to make an EPS, you'll come up here, select EPS, and export. Now, a lot of people fail to, look through these options. This is where you make your file what you want it to be. So sometimes it may be defaulted to 72 DPI, but a vector file you want to switch to 300 DPI. And also you want to export the text as curves. Because if you don't, if you give this file to someone else, they may not have that font. So sometimes it will include it, but depending on what program they're using, it may not work on their computer. So it's better just to export the text as curves, let them figure it out later on. Okay, and you can also change your color settings to CMYK, RGB, or grayscale. I prefer CMYK. There's some other options in here, but I'm not going to mess with those right now, so don't worry about that. Okay, so that's your EPS file. Let's export a bitmap, shall we? Now, also, when you export a bitmap, it's going to export everything on the page. So if you have something that's off the page, it won't export that. So make sure it's on the page, or make sure it's grouped together with something that is on the page. Let's go ahead and export the bitmap. So we'll make this a JPEG. So just come down here and select JPEG and defaults and export. Now once again, this is where you want to pay attention, because this is what makes the file what you need it to be. Now say if you're just sending a JPEG for a proof to send off to someone, you don't need to send 300 DPI. I mean, honestly, you can send 72, but I prefer 150 because it's a good medium. Now if you're setting up a file to be sent off to a digitizer for embroidery, switch that to 300. Also, your color settings right here, you can switch to grayscale, RGB, CMYK, depending on what you're needing. Right now I'm just going to default to RGB and hit OK. And let's see. Also in here, I really don't mess with these settings too much because the default settings on this are pretty good for Corel, so I'm just going to leave that alone and hit OK. And so now you have a JPEG file. Wasn't that nice? Okay, let's see. Importable files that you can get into Corel. You can import PDFs. You can still get vector format in PDF. You can also get the EPS, of course. Let's see. You can import Illustrator files, but like I said, you'll run into errors sometimes, and it might just bog down Corel. So I mean, I try and stay clear of that, or at least convert it to an EPS file first. Okay, I think that's about everything I wanted to touch on. So let's go ahead and swap over to this page. Now this is the website I go to get a lot of my files, vector files. They have PNG files with transparent backgrounds. This is fordesigner.com. It's a really good source. The only downside to it is that it's not organized too great. So let's see. Like I said, you can come over to vector design. There's a category I like to use a lot, but it's not organized, so you have to do some digging. But it's a great source. There's always new stuff there. I haven't had any problems with it, and a lot of the files here I've been able to convert with no problems. So yeah, that's about it. Good source. So check it out. And like I said, I'll have some more updates later on. I hate doing these little boring Corel lessons, but this is the stuff that a lot of people have been asking me about and asking how I get certain files to work for them. And so you're going to want to know this information anyways here in the future soon when we start getting the actual design tutorials, because I'll be using a lot of hotkeys, a lot of these file conversions, and it's going to get pretty extensive. So just keep that in mind, and this is a good basic lesson to learn. So let me go ahead and get on out of here. My name is Steve with Visual Source FX. Be sure to check the Facebook page and check out the YouTube channel for updates. I also have the release of the promo reel coming out for the upcoming YouTube series I'll be producing. And that's it. Alright, catch you guys next time.